Barron Trump has just rocked the media world with a staggering lawsuit against a prominent liberal television host following an on-air remark about his mother, Melania Trump. The youngest Trump is seeking a jaw-dropping $100 million in damages, sending shockwaves through the industry. Experts are debating whether Barron has a solid case. Could this be the beginning of a new Trump media war? Stay tuned as we dive into the explosive details. The studio lights blazed as the cameras rolled. The liberal television host, Mark Ellison, leaned forward, his tone dripping with sarcasm. And Melania Trump? Well, let's just say she's perfected the art of looking concerned when it suits her. Laughter erupted in the studio, and the audience applauded. But not everyone was amused. Barron Trump, watching from his secure suite in the White House, froze. His mother had endured years of mockery, but this was different. Ellison's sneer. His tone wasn't just an insult. It was an attack. Barron's fists clenched as he thought of the nights his mother had stayed up, comforting him, shielding him from the media's cruelty. She wasn't just his mother. She was his protector. And now, it was his turn to protect her. A Secret Service agent nearby noticed Barron's expression shift. "Sir, is everything all right?" Barron exhaled slowly. "Get my lawyer on the phone." The agent hesitated. "A lawyer?" "Yes," Barron said firmly. "I'm suing him. $100 million. He crossed the line." The agent nodded. The world was about to witness a battle they never saw coming. News of Barron's lawsuit spread like wildfire. Barron Trump files $100 million lawsuit against television host Mark Ellison after on-air attack on Melania Trump. Social media exploded. Some mocked Barron, calling him too sensitive. Others defended him, saying it was time someone stood up for his mother. Meanwhile, Melania sat in her private White House quarters, staring at the television. "Sweetheart," she said softly as Barron entered, "you didn't have to do this for me." "Mom," Barron replied, his voice steady, "they've disrespected you for years. Enough is enough." She touched his face, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "You are so much like your father." Across town, Mark Ellison laughed in his high-rise office. "A lawsuit from the kid? Oh, this will be fun," he told his producers. He had no idea known at all that he had just awakened a storm. Late that night, Barron's phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" he answered cautiously. A deep voice spoke. "Barron, this is Clint Eastwood." Barron sat up straight. "Mr. Eastwood?" "I saw what happened," Eastwood said. "I respect what you're doing. I know what it's like to stand alone against the media. But be careful, these people don't play fair." Barron hesitated. "What do you mean?" "They'll dig, twist, and attack. They'll try to break you before this even reaches court." Barron swallowed hard. He had expected backlash, but now he felt something else, something cold, creeping in. Fear. Still, he clenched his fists. "I'm not backing down, sir." Eastwood chuckled. "Good. Then prepare for war." Barron exhaled. This wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. This was a battle for respect. By morning, every news outlet was covering the lawsuit. "Barron Trump takes a stand," one headline read. "Entitled Rich Kid or Devoted Son?" another sneered. Barron sat at the long mahogany table in the White House, scrolling through the articles. His phone buzzed non-stop, some messages supportive, others cruel. Melania entered, her face unreadable. "Are you sure about this, Barron?" He looked up. "I won't let them humiliate you anymore." She placed a hand on his. "The media will come after you hard now." "I don't care," Barron said. "He crossed the line, and he's going to answer for it." Meanwhile, Mark Ellison smirked in his New York penthouse. "They think they can silence me?" he told his producer. "We'll destroy him before this even reaches court." That night, Barron's security team received a tip. A major media outlet was digging for dirt on Barron and Melania. A Secret Service agent approached Barron. "Sir, this is bigger than a lawsuit now. They're going to try to ruin you." Barron's jaw tightened. "Let them try." The next morning, a major news channel ran a shocking report. Exclusive. Barron Trump's secret scandal, what is the first son hiding? Barron's heart pounded as he watched. The report was filled with baseless accusations, wild claims that he had used government resources for personal gain, doctored photos showing him partying recklessly. Lies, all lies. Melania gasped, her hand over her mouth. They're trying to destroy you. Barron clenched his fists. I knew they'd fight back, but this is disgusting. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit newsroom, Mark Ellison laughed with his producers. We make him look like a spoiled brat, and the lawsuit falls apart, he said. That night, Barron's phone rang again. It was Clint Eastwood. Barron, I told you they'd come for you, Clint said. Barron sighed. What do I do? Clint's voice was steady. You fight back not with anger, with truth. They want to break you. Don't let them. Barron exhaled. He wasn't backing down. As the smear campaign raged on, Barron sat in his room, overwhelmed. His phone buzzed. It was an email. The subject line, "You need to see this." Attached was a scanned letter. The sender was anonymous, but the contents made Barron's hands shake. It was a private message from Mark Ellison to his producers before the controversial broadcast. Let's hit Melania hard, make her look cold, distant. The public eats that up. It was proof that Ellison had planned the attack, not just an offhand comment, but a calculated move to hurt his mother. Barron's heart thundered. He ran to the Oval Office, where his father was on a call. Dad, look at this, Barron said, his voice shaking. Donald Trump took the letter, read it, and his face darkened. He picked up the phone. Get my lawyers. Now. The war had just turned. The White House legal team gathered around the long oak table. The letter proving Mark Ellison's calculated attack on Melania was spread out before them. Barron sat beside his father, his heart pounding. This is it, one lawyer said. We have proof he did this intentionally. This isn't free speech, it's defamation. Donald Trump leaned back in his chair. Good. Then we go all in. But before they could file the new evidence, a breaking news alert flashed across the television screen. Leaked email. Mark Ellison caught in secret plot to attack Melania Trump. Someone had leaked the letter. Barron's eyes widened. Who did this? Melania put a hand on his shoulder. It doesn't matter now. The world knows the truth. Ellison's smug grin was gone. In his New York studio, he slammed his desk. Find out who leaked it, he roared at his team. The court of public opinion was shifting, but as Barron soon realized, the battle was far from over. The media had new plans, and this time, they were going after something even more personal. The next day, a well-known journalist aired an exclusive interview with someone unexpected, one of Melania's former close friends. She sat in a dimly lit studio, dabbing fake tears. Melania isn't who she seems, she claimed. She's distant. She doesn't really care about people. She's just playing a role. Barron's stomach dropped as he watched. Melania turned off the television and exhaled. They're trying to make me look like I deserve this, she said softly. Mom, this is disgusting, Barron said. I'm used to it, she replied with a sad smile. But I'm not, Barron said. I won't let them do this to you. Meanwhile, the smear campaign worked. Talk shows debated. Is Melania really the victim? Did Barron overreact? The pressure was mounting. Then, a phone call came that changed everything. The lawyer's voice was urgent. Barron, the judge has decided. The case is moving forward. Barron exhaled. Then let's win this. But the battle was about to take a shocking turn. That night, as Barron sat in his room, his phone vibrated. A blocked number. He hesitated, then answered. A deep, distorted voice spoke. Drop the lawsuit, or you'll regret it. Barron's blood ran cold. Who is this? The line went dead. Within seconds, Secret Service agents stormed in. Sir, what happened? Barron's voice was steady, but his hands trembled. Someone just threatened me. The agents moved fast, securing the room and alerting top officials. Down the hall, Donald Trump was briefed. His face darkened. They think they can scare my son? Melania rushed into Barron's room. Are you okay? Barron looked at her, his heart pounding. Mom, they don't just want to ruin us. They want us to be afraid. Melania touched his cheek, her eyes full of quiet strength. Then we show them we are not afraid. The next morning, Barron walked outside, past the cameras. He looked straight ahead. He wasn't backing down, not now, not ever. The White House was on high alert. The threat against Barron was taken seriously, and his security was tightened. Despite the fear, Barron refused to hide. The lawsuit was bigger than him now. It was about standing up for his mother. That evening, Barron sat with Melania in the private residence. She held his hand. "You've done more for me than I ever expected, Barron," she said softly. "You don't deserve this," he replied. Just then his phone buzzed. Another anonymous email. "You should have listened. Now it gets worse." Attached was a deepfake video, heavily edited clip, making it look like Melania had mocked an underprivileged family. It was fake, but it was made to look real. Barron's heart pounded. They're trying to destroy her. Within minutes, the video went viral. News outlets jumped on it, and social media exploded with hate. Melania sighed. "They want us to break." Barron stood up, fire in his eyes. "Then they'll be disappointed." Lies. Barron watched in anger as the media twisted the story. He knew this was their final weapon, turning his mother into the villain. That night, he made a decision. The next morning, he stepped in front of a podium at the White House. Cameras flashed. Millions watched live. "Enough is enough," he said firmly. "This isn't about politics. This is about human decency. My mother is a good woman, and I won't stand by while people try to destroy her with lies." His voice cracked slightly, but he held back tears. "My father fights for what he believes in. My mother stays silent, but she feels everything. And me? I will not be silent." The world listened. Some cried. Some finally saw the truth. And deep inside, Mark Ellison realized he was losing. The lawsuit hearing arrived. The world watched as Barron entered the courtroom, flanked by Secret Service. Mark Ellison sat at his table, smug, as if he had already won. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. Barron's lawyers presented their case, showing the leaked emails, the smear campaign, the fake video. When it was Mark's turn, his lawyers fumbled. They had no real defense, just excuses. Then the judge spoke. "Mr. Ellison, do you stand by your words against Mrs. Trump?" Ellison hesitated. His arrogance flickered. It was satire. Barron stood, his voice strong. "You knew what you were doing, and you don't even have the courage to admit it." Ellison had no response. The room was silent. And at that moment, the world saw the truth. As the courtroom drama unfolded, Barron's story gained traction worldwide. Supporters rallied, while critics grew quieter. Late that evening, Barron received a call from a familiar voice. "Barron, it's Clint Eastwood again," the legendary actor said. Barron smiled, feeling a glimmer of hope. "Mr. Eastwood, thank you for calling. I've seen enough bullies in my life," Clint said, "and I won't stand by while they target your family. I'm offering my support publicly." Barron's eyes welled up. "You don't have to do that." Clint chuckled. "Kid, sometimes doing what's right is the only option." The next morning, Clint Eastwood released a statement defending Melania and praising Barron's courage. Hollywood was stunned. Meanwhile, Mark Ellison's sponsors began to back out. His show's ratings plummeted, and his confidence wavered as his support crumbled. In the courtroom, Barron's lawyers presented Clint's statement as evidence of the damage Ellison had caused. Ellison's lawyer fumbled, stuttering weak defenses. Barron glanced at his mother, who smiled softly, tears glistening in her eyes. For the first time in a long while, hope was within reach. The trial had reached its climax. Both sides rested their cases, and the jury began their deliberation. Barron sat in the quiet courtroom, Melania's hand resting on his. "We've done all we can," she whispered. Barron nodded, his heart racing. "I just want them to know you're not who they say you are." Hours felt like days as the jury remained behind closed doors. News anchors speculated wildly, and social media buzzed with predictions. Outside the courthouse, crowds gathered. Some held signs supporting Barron. Others sided with Ellison. The tension was palpable. Finally, the doors opened. The jury filed back into their seats, faces unreadable. The foreman stood, clearing his throat. "In the matter of Barron Trump versus Mark Ellison, we, the jury, find in favor of the plaintiff, Barron Trump." Gasps echoed in the courtroom. Barron's breath hitched. Melania squeezed his hand. The foreman continued, "We award damages in the amount of $100 million. The battle was over, and Barron had won. As reporters scrambled for coverage, Mark Ellison sat stunned. His empire was collapsing, his reputation in tatters. Barron and Melania embraced, their tears a mix of relief and exhaustion. Outside, the crowd erupted into cheers. Strangers wept, moved by the young man's unwavering stand for his mother. But the victory was bittersweet. Barron realized that no amount of money could erase the pain his mother had endured. In a press conference later that day, Barron addressed the nation. "This lawsuit was never about the money," he began, his voice shaking. "It was about respect. My mother has been unfairly judged, and today we took a stand against that." He glanced at Melania, whose eyes shone with pride. "I hope this sends a message," Barron continued. "Words have power, and no one deserves to be hurt for entertainment." Mark Ellison's show was canceled, his career in shambles. But for Barron, the real victory was in the hearts of those who now saw his mother for who she truly was, a kind, loving woman who had endured too much. Barron walked out of the courthouse, the weight of the past week pressing down on him. The cameras flashed like 1,000 tiny explosions, reporters shouting over each other. "Barron, how do you feel about the verdict? Do you think $100 million is too much? Will you forgive Mark Ellison?" Barron stopped. The world held its breath. He looked directly into the cameras, his voice steady. "This was never about money. It was about my mother, about dignity, about knowing that no one, no matter who they are, deserves to be humiliated for ratings." Melania stood beside him, her eyes shining with emotion. The crowd outside the courthouse erupted into applause. Strangers wiped away tears, moved by Barron's poise and love for his mother. Inside the courtroom, Mark Ellison sat slumped in his chair, his career shattered. He had underestimated Barron, thinking he was just another rich kid. But Barron wasn't just anyone, he was his mother's protector. As he left with his security team, a reporter whispered, "He's not just Donald Trump's son. He's a man of his own." And for the first time, Barron believed it. That night, Barron sat alone in his hotel room, staring at the court documents. The money was his. He had won, but it didn't feel like a victory. His mind raced back to his mother's silent pain, the night she had spent crying behind closed doors, while the media mocked her. She never fought back. She endured. Barron refused to let it end this way. The next morning, he stood at a press conference, cameras rolling, the world watching. "I am donating every cent of this settlement to charities that support women who have been bullied, shamed, and disrespected." Gasps filled the room. Even Melania covered her mouth in shock. "This was never about destroying someone," Barron continued, his voice thick with emotion. "It was about standing up for what's right. I hope Mr. Ellison understands that." Even Mark Ellison, watching from his empty office, felt his throat tighten. He had lost everything, but somehow, Barron's words didn't feel like a final attack. They felt like mercy. And mercy was something Ellison never thought he deserved. The world reacted with overwhelming emotion. People from all walks of life praised Barron, his maturity beyond his years. Tears streamed down Melania's face as she hugged her son. "You did something extraordinary," she whispered. The next day, Barron received an unexpected letter. It was from Mark Ellison. It was an apology. For the first time in his career, the disgraced television host admitted he had been wrong, that he had crossed a line, that Barron had shown him what real strength looked like. The media had expected another Trump media battle. Instead, Barron had turned it into a story of forgiveness, strength, and love. As he sat on the White House balcony that evening, looking at the city lights, he realized something. This wasn't just about winning a lawsuit. It was about changing hearts. And maybe, just maybe, he had. This story is more than just a courtroom drama. It's about standing up for those we love, even when the world laughs at us. If Barron's courage inspired you today, Don,